Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where purpose meets performance. Hosted by business strategist and human behavior specialist Carly Pepin, this show dives into the real stories behind high-growth businesses. Let's bring life to your vision.
Hey guys, so welcome back. We have a really cool show for you today. I have Bryan Clayton here, and he started mowing lawns as a teenager with a push mower. 20 years later, he is the CEO of GreenPal. The app Entrepreneur magazine calls it Uber for lawn care. Before GreenPal, Bryan built one of Tennessee's largest landscaping companies, growing it to over 10 million a year before selling it. Now he's doing it again, this time with technology. GreenPal connects 300,000 homeowners with reliable lawn pros, handling thousands of jobs every day all over the US. Bryan's on a mission to bring AI into one of the oldest industries out there, helping small lawn care businesses use data and automation to compete like big companies. From pushing a mower to building a 30 million tech platform, Bryan's story is all about grit, adaptation, and how old school work can drive a high-tech world. So thank you so much for being here, Bryan. I really appreciate it.
Carly, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into just everything that you've created, which is a lot of different items. Before you started GreenPal, you spent 15 years running a traditional landscaping company. So what actually did you notice about that landscaping company that gave you some insights into creating GreenPal?
Yeah, it's a great question. Uh, Building that business from just me and a push mower to me and 150 people, I kind of knew how the landscaping business grew from worked from the inside out. And so when I sold the company, I thought, what do I want to do now? What can I do with the next kind of chapter of my entrepreneurial journey? And just at the time I was making that transition, Uber was kind of taking over the world. And I saw what Uber was doing for ride sharing, and I thought, okay, well, somebody's going to do that for this industry that I know. And I knew that the industry ran very inefficiently, that it was a lot of pen and paper, a lot of voicemails, a lot of mailing of checks, a lot of upset customers. And so I knew that a digital platform could fix a lot of those things. And so I was kind of solving my own problem when I started GreenPal. I was kind of solving a lot of the problems I saw while running a landscaping business for 15 years.
Awesome. That's very cool. And I'm curious as well, when you exited GreenPal, right? Because I know, is that something that you planned on exiting, or in the beginning, did you just think, hey, I'm going to build a business, and then you had the opportunity to exit? Sorry, not GreenPal, your other company, your
Yeah.
landscaping
So
company.
ideally, when you haven't exited
Uh,
GreenPal yet, I still love running this business.
yeah, he does.
But if you
Uh,
ever think about wanting to explore an acquisition of your company, ideally, you want to begin with the end in mind. You want to really visualize what that looks like, and really define what it looks like, and then work backwards from that point. And there's a book about this called Built to Sell that is just
it's a good
about that,
one.
that exact thing, where
Mhm.
you want to you want to exit your business, you want to sell your company. You have to build the company to be able to get it acquired. And so with me, with my landscaping company, I was kind of building the business as a lifestyle business. I was keeping it profitable and just kind of running it with all of my blood, sweat, and tears. And I had some systems, I had some processes. We were doing 8 figures a year in revenue, so we had some good systems, but it wasn't built to a point where it could just be acquired and bolted on to a national organization. So when I made the decision to sell it, I had to kind of take it down to the studs and rebuild it from scratch almost. There was a lot of things that had to be done to get it to a point where it could be sold. And what was funny was by the time I did all of those things, and it was like 2 years, it was a long process to get it groomed and get it to a point where it could be acquired. And I that was kind of like the final like chapter of that business. I learned so much going through that and navigating the acquisition process that it almost like reinvigorated me for the second act of building GreenPal.
Yeah, that's cool. It's a great example as well as how much energy, effort, work goes into almost rebuilding something to sell it. And I'm curious now that you've had that lesson, are you building GreenPal to sell even if you don't sell it? Are you just doing all the systems, processes, getting it in place?
Well, I made a decision when I started this company that I was going to just run it as hard as I could
Mhm.
and do it as long as I was having fun. And so I've been doing this for, I guess GreenPal's about a 10-year overnight success. Been at this a little over a decade. But I really haven't worked a day in a decade because it's always been what I wanted to do. It's always been what I wanted to work on. And I still feel that way. So we're not really exploring that, but the nature of a tech business is one that it is very systems oriented. It's built from a system standpoint from day one. And so that lends itself to something that could be acquired a lot easier. Whereas my traditional like blue collar landscaping business was a lot of finesse, was a lot of kind of me as the proprietor holding it together.
Hmm.
Whereas GreenPal, I can step away for a month, come back, and it still be there. Whereas my landscaping business, I could step away for about 2 days, and come back, and there would be like 10 problems. And so, the nature of it, like a tech business, makes it to where it is more it is easier to navigate that acquisition process.
Okay, that's really cool. And I'm curious as well, because something that you said in there, now you can step away from the business for a month, where in the past you could only step away for like 2 days because of the blue collar operations dynamic. But what else have you put in place to be able to delegate, walk away to that degree where the company is just fine without you?
Yeah, it's this like idea of the book Anti-Fragile, and that's how you want to think about your business. You want to so you want to build a certainly not a fragile business, you want to build an anti-fragile business, the opposite of fragile. And so anti-fragile means that you can walk away for a week, a month, 3 months, and the business is durable and to a point where it will still be okay without you, or better yet, it will actually grow in your absence because you have built in these self-reinforcing loops, all up and down the organization where it is running like a well-oiled machine. That's kind of the gold standard. And so with my first company, it was very much a analog business. It was very much spreadsheets, printing off paper, talking to laborers, dealing with machinery, a lot of just like moving parts, literally like kinetic moving parts. Whereas with GreenPal, it's just a 100% digital platform. So
Mhm.
it's a transition from like atoms to bits. And when you make that transition, such as like Uber, the world's largest ride sharing app doesn't own one taxi, and Airbnb doesn't own one hotel room, doesn't own any brick and mortar. GreenPal is the same way. GreenPal doesn't isn't limited, isn't dragged down by the atoms world. We operate in the bits world.
Awesome. And I'm curious as well, because one thing you mentioned is that you've put in these self-reinforcing loops, right? To make sure not only things work without you, but are scaling without you. So what is one of the self-reinforcing loops that's been kind of a game changer for you?
Yeah, it's not as complicated as you would think. A lot of it is figuring out what it is that you're doing, that the product is doing that's upsetting customers, and fixing those problems, and doing that over and over again relentlessly. I like to call it, I heard this term, and I don't know who coined it, but it's constructive dissatisfaction. It is always you're always dissatisfied with the status quo of where the business is, and you're building in processes to fix those things and make them better. One simple one that we do is we have built internally a system that goes out and pulls down everything everybody is saying about GreenPal everywhere. So it could be Reddit, it could be Trustpilot, Google, Yelp, Facebook, and it brings it all in, and it organizes it into one report of the pros and cons of what people are saying in terms of reviews, online chatter, Facebook groups, things like that. And then we use now, we used to do this in a very manual process, but now with tools like Claude and ChatGPT, we then analyze that. We analyze the sentiment, and we give ourselves a score. Okay, here's how we're doing this week, and here's how we were doing compared to this time last year. And this is what people are saying. This is what we're doing that's making people happy. And then this is what we're doing that's upsetting people. And then here's 5 feature improvement ideas that we could do to fix those problems. And so this is just a relentless, never-ending feedback loop that is using customer feedback to help make us better to where we can make more people happier and grow the business.
That's cool. It's a great idea too, because I know, sometimes people put stuff on Google, but they really go all out on Reddit. There's just like no
Yeah.
holds barred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of the nuance is understanding what is good feedback and
Yep.
what is somebody that's just not a good fit for the business. The problem is I've been guilty of this, is that you just kind of ignore all of it and put it in that bucket of, well, they just weren't an ideal customer, and that's not always the case. That there is a meaningful percentage of the detractors that are just trying to help you. They are like free R&D, and so you have to leverage that.
Yeah. And how do you guys do that? How do you guys distinguish between like this is just someone in a bad mood, cranky person, not the niche, versus like this is someone who actually we need to pay attention to. This is a common thing that people are saying, and this is our like ideal client.
Yeah, it's like,
Mhm.
for example, Uber deals with this. With Uber, I know as a rider, I want to order my Uber and just wait outside for me, and I will come out when I'm ready. It might be a minute, it might be 5 minutes, it could be 10. Just wait. You're my chauffeur. And and that's the mentality that I have as a consumer. Well, that's not how it works on the driver's side. They need your butt out there within 60 seconds because they got to get on to the next thing. And if you're not, they're going to cancel and move on. So if you're the CEO of Uber and you're getting these complaints around somebody didn't wait 5 or 10 minutes for you, you realize that that's not realistic. And that is not a rational user, and that's not somebody you need to go after. We have that with GreenPal. We get complaints from consumers that just want to order a mow for today, this afternoon, and then wait 4 weeks and order one more on Saturday morning, and then wait another 3 weeks and then order another one on a Tuesday afternoon. And that's not the way the lawn care business works. You have to fall into a cadence. You have to fall into an ongoing schedule. And so uh, whenever we get that negative feedback, we try to figure out, okay, well, where in the process did we not manage expectations, did not educate this user, did not educate this customer, and try to fix that. But at a certain point in time, you just got to realize that you're not going to please everybody. So that's not one you can do a whole lot about. But um, somebody who's been on the platform for a few transactions, and then all of a sudden the person they were working with to get their services done just ghosted them and is not returning their phone calls. And our system didn't pick that up and didn't prevent that from happening, and didn't have somebody else on deck already to replace them. Well, then that's where our processes drop the ball. So if we're getting a lot of that kind of negative feedback that we can do something about it, we need to tune that and we need to improve that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very cool. And I know, like, when you first started this, it's something that you built yourself. So you started learning to build the software. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. When we started off, I knew a lot about the lawn mowing business, the landscaping business, but I didn't know anything about the software business. And so I came from a world of like machinery, lawnmowers, trucks, mechanics, things of that sort. And I kind of had to transition to a world of software
Mhm.
engineers, developers, coders, designers, content writers, things like that. And the way we did that is we just did everything ourselves for like 3 years. And so my co-founders and I, we had to teach ourselves how to write software. We had to teach ourselves how to do search engine optimization, how to teach ourselves how to do content marketing. And so we kind of zoomed in on what the biggest choke point was, the limiting factor, like the main thing that we were like, um, the hair on fire problem we had at that moment, learned how to do it, then did it for 2 or 3 months, and then we would go find somebody to we could delegate it to.
Mhm.
Uh, we tried to not do that. We tried to just delegate day 1, but the problem was we didn't know what the hell we were doing. So we
So you
would,
didn't know what you
every
were
time
delegating.
yeah, every time you delegate from a position of, what they call, abdication, delegation from abdication is always a recipe for disaster. It should be delegation through stewardship, which is,
Mhm.
okay, this is how this needs to be done. This is how I've done it. This is what success looks like. This is what we expect. Here's the scope of work. Here's the processes we expect you to follow. Now you go take this off my plate. That's stewardship delegation. And so we had to do that for many years, figuring out how to do all of these kind of two or three dozen different roles, and then hand them off to freelancers and contractors and employees, and build out our team that way.
That's awesome. And what is the size of your team today?
Right now, it's about 40 to 50 people internally, depending on the time of year, and we're actually looking to reduce that. I want to be able to do more with a smaller team.
Yeah.
And so even though we've grown 20-30% over the last year, we're looking to reduce headcount. And it's amazing how much more we can get done with less than ever before. And it's not that there's less work to do. There's more work to do than ever. As these new AI tools come online, we've unlocked kind of new levels of the game and new levels of capability that we just flat out couldn't do 2-3 years ago. We couldn't do the level of like data analysis and using data to predict outcomes and prevent bad things from happening on the platform. And we couldn't do that before. Now we can. So there's more work to do, but we're looking to do it with less people.
Hey everyone, it's Carly. If you're really resonating with what we're talking about and want to get clear on what truly drives you, what your core values are, head on over to my website. In the tools and tips section, there is a free values assessment. And this is a quick exercise that's going to help you to uncover what actually matters most with you so you can lead and live with more clarity, fulfillment, and momentum. Yeah, amazing. And so it sounds like like a majority of that is just transitioning to streamlining some processes, systems, just data collection entry with AI. Is that
Oh,
correct?
a lot of that. A
Yeah.
lot of that. Yeah. Everything that was ever manual is now abstracted away and automated. And then, but then a lot of it is around figuring out like what are the right things we need to be doing, because a lot of headcount was like people that we had deployed on the wrong things,
Mhm.
maybe the wrong marketing efforts or the wrong sales channels that weren't working. And maybe we didn't know that very well until we could crunch the numbers better. Or it could be, instead of three front end developers, we now only need one, and
Mhm.
we actually need two more back end developers. It's reallocating people at their highest and best use at more effective things, and not doing things that don't move the needle. AI has actually helped us with that as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so now are you doing all of the technical dynamics, all the programming, everything in-house, or do you still do some with outside contractors?
Yeah, everything is in house. But what I like to do is, so for example, like let's just say, I would love to have the budget for a full time technical SEO developer engineer. And so what this person would do is they just really pour into the logs, and they really pour into the data, and they figure out ways to to do software changes, and from an engineering standpoint, help accomplish our traffic goals. Well,
Mhm.
that person makes a good one makes, $500,000 a year. And so in lieu of that, we don't have the budget for that particular person right now. We will pay a contractor for 1 hour a week for
Mhm.
$1,000 an hour, to come in and look at what we're doing, and give us a game plan that we can then execute against. And so, if spending a decade building GreenPal, I have followed that kind of little playbook for every role. Even our first developer, it was me writing crap code, and then I would pay this guy who was like a senior level engineer $400 an hour, and he would review what we were building. He'd say, "Actually, no, you're screwing this up, you're screwing that up," and then we would work on that, and then it got to a point where we could hire that guy, and then so it was like rinse and repeat of paying for consultants, paying for contractors, paying for really like expensive high level people to help monitor what it was we were doing, and help shape the strategy, and help course correct when we were screwing things up.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that. And I'm curious too, like when you think about the first high level employee that you guys found that you needed within the company, right? So I know that you get them part-time, but which was the first position that you decided, okay, it's time to hire this individual? And I'm curious why you chose to hire that individual as one of your first high level hires?
I like to like date before you get married. So I like to do that. I really before we hire anybody full time would like to work with them on a project basis. Some kind of isolated thing that they can finish end to end, and then I can judge if we're going to be a good fit working with each other, if they have the skills to execute what it is we need done. And so I prefer that. And we've pretty much done that with every full-time hire that we've made where we could. And, you know, recently was like a full-time like DevOps person that looks at we have 13 engineers and looks at what they're building and uh almost kind of like is like a safety check against sloppy code and slow code and bad performing code. And that was somebody that we had on a fractional basis just for 2 hours a week for many, many years. And then it got to a point where we needed that person full time, looking at all the code that was getting checked in and just reviewing it. And we brought them on full time. And we knew that would be a good fit because we had worked with them on a fractional basis. But I think you can do this for everybody in the company, whether it be your chief of marketing or your head of legal or your head of even accounting. You can work with somebody fractionally. When I was building my first landscaping business, this was not an option.
Yeah.
If you needed a head of HR, like you just didn't have one until you had 150 grand a year to spend on somebody. Now you can have an HR person look at everything you're doing for an hour a month and making sure you're not screwing anything up. This is like a new phenomenon that small businesses can punch above their weight more than they could when I was started my first company in the 90s.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love that. And I love the idea too, because it's like then you get to really connect with the person, see if they're fitting in with the team, with the
Right.
culture, like how you guys work well together. You're like, yeah, this is a solid match. Yeah, that's very, very cool. And I'm curious as well. So you mentioned that you have co-founders. How many co-founders do you have in the company?
So it's me and two other people, so it's a total of three of us, and I got really lucky with these two guys. It was basically two guys that they just wanted more out of life, like literally, like they felt like they could do more with their time on this planet and wanted to be a part of a project and wanted to be a part of a mission. And that was it. Like there wasn't none of us knew how to code. None of us had ever tried to build a tech company before, but the three of us were hungry enough and all sufficiently motivated that we were going to do whatever it took to breathe something to life. And
Mhm.
and so the idea for like the Uber of lawn care was one that I had in my head, but it was my best idea, but it was kind of like the vehicle to help these two guys get where it is they were wanting to go in life. And so I got really lucky. I recommend that before you take on a co-founder, you go it alone as far and long as you can, to de-risk the business and to not take on a co-founder until you find your business like soulmate. It's
Mhm.
crazy. We put all of this like consideration into who we get married to, and we should. But you see people forming businesses with partners all the time, with a fraction of that type of consideration. And the reality is like a traditional marriage is like just as important as like a business partnership. Like in fact,
Mhm.
I think a business partnership is probably more difficult to unwind than a marriage is. So you got to really think that through. One little litmus test that I have is if you had $10 million in the bank, day one starting this company, would you strike them a check for $5 million to start the business with you? And if
Mhm.
the answer of that to that question is no, then maybe you should reconsider this because at some point their equity is going to be worth that. And
Mhm.
and so you need to be like pulling that forward and thinking through that. Are they worth that? Or are you like wanting them to start the business with you as a coping mechanism? I see that a
Mhm.
lot. It's like, oh, if somebody else will start this with me, then it's worth me doing, And so really think through that. Go it alone as far as you can. And the same kind of thought process goes for investors because investors are partners too. And so
Mhm.
you should try to like de-risk it as long as you can.
Yeah. No, it's great advice. I definitely agree with you on that one. I say that a lot. It's like marriage, and why are we not putting more energy and effort into finding out
Totally.
more about the individual? And marriage is like a business. So also, yeah, check on the back end of things so that you know what
Yeah,
you're getting
they're very
into.
similar. They really
Very
are very
similar.
similar. You are legally bound together. You're financially bound together. You're going to be through it thick and thin. You're going to be spending a lot of time with each other.
Yeah.
Um, you know, in fact, you may probably will spend more time with your business partner than you actually will with your actual spouse. And so,
Often.
really think through this.
Yeah, yeah, it's very true. And I'm curious as well, when you decided to take on co-founders, what was your reasoning? What benefit did it add to you that you're like, yes, this is the way for me to go?
For me, it was
Mhm.
like we didn't want to raise any money, and so I knew I wanted to self fund the business, and so I knew there was just going to be a tremendous amount of raw work to be done, and I knew that it was going to be us doing the work for a long time until we could generate enough money to delegate and build out a team around us. And so for me, it was like a sharing of the workload that had to be done. And a lot of it was just kind of following the traditional, tech startup path of you. The first thing you do is you go out and get a co-founder, and so a lot of it was mirroring that. But frankly, there was just so much work to do. It was 6 7 days a week, um, that it was like a no brainer. I knew I needed help building the business, and I, if I didn't have them on board, the business wouldn't be where it is today. So, looking back, it was the right call.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm curious, present day, when you think about your day to day, because I imagine you guys split things up as founders and then also, you have your executive team. What is your day to day focus now within the company after growing it to where you have today?
Yeah, I personally, I live, eat, and breathe the product and the growth, and so those are the two things that I am all over all the time. Is where is the product going? What features do we have on the roadmap? What should we be building? What should we be changing? Because a marketplace, connects buyers and sellers, and so there's all these little nuances with how you craft that, and so you're always making changes. And so I'm kind of like obsessed with that. And then also the growth. Are we have a few numbers that we care about? Are those going up? And what if they're not, what's going wrong? And so that's what I focus on. My co-founders, one focuses on all the tech and all of the execution, and then the other one focuses on all of the PR, all of the community building, and some of the marketing as well.
Awesome. And I'm curious too, so when you think about the growth of the company, what is your what is it that you're most focused on right now when you think about growing the company?
Yeah, it's like where do you because you can only focus on so many things at a time. And the way I think about it is get, keep, grow. And so you've got three buckets. You get customers, you keep them, and then you grow them. And it's like you can focus on almost one at a time. And so the get piece would be just traffic to the mobile app, traffic to the website. Where are people coming from? And are those numbers going up? The keep piece is okay, people that tried it out, did they like it? Did they not like it? What did they say about it? Did they use it for a second, third, fourth visit? Did we retain them? And then the grow piece is okay, of those people, how many of them referred somebody else? And that's part of the anti-fragile thing we were talking about earlier.
Mm,
If this thing can grow on its own, then that helps build durability in the business. And so the way I look at it is which of these three is not doing as well as I want it to do at a certain point in time. And then you want all of them to go up, obviously, but which one is suffering the most? And then I zoom in on that and attack it and spend 6 months on it. And then we might leave the get piece a while alone for a while, let the SEO team work, and then let's focus on the retention piece. Okay. Why is it that only 40% of people that used it in Dallas, Texas,
Mm.
booked a second lawn mowing, and like zoom in and fix that problem. And to that point, it's like, it's not just one business, it's like 300 businesses, because every city is its own micro network. And so we're always zooming in and diagnosing and fixing issues. But the way we kind of keep it organized is in those three buckets, and we zoom in and zoom out and focus on what needs love at that moment.
That's cool. I'm curious, when you talk about the numbers that are the top priority as well, which numbers are you guys most focused on? What are the KPIs metrics that you like to watch the most?
Yeah, it's what we call them active metrics. And so what, like, not vanity metrics, not signups, not traffic, not social media shares. A lot of times we can get focused, we can get sidetracked on fake work and metrics that don't matter. So when you're in a marketplace like us, it's usually transactions over a period of time. And so we think about it as transactions per week. And so the number of buyers and sellers that met on our platform, got prices from one another, and did business, and one paid the other on our platform, and the number of times that happened in a given week, and that needs to be going up week over week. And yeah, sure, these other things map to that. The raw traffic coming to the website, the raw number of downloads matter, because that's an input to transactions per week. But it's not the thing you need to focus on, because there's a lot that goes into, okay, did they get prices quick? Were the vendors that they got prices from, did they have a good looking profile? Did they have transactions on the network? Did the guy they hired or show up on time? Did he do a good job? Did he follow the protocol, follow the process? And so you're just always diagnosing these like steps in the funnel, and that one active metric of transactions per week, tells us if we're doing the right stuff or not.
That's cool. That's very cool. Thank you. I'm curious too, because, I had gone on the website, I had checked some of the stuff out. I live in a bit of a remote area, so I was like, oh, I'm curious what's available as far as me. But one thing that I thought was cool that you guys have was you have a reliability rating, which I live in a very small mountain town. Like I asked someone to fix my sprinklers like 2 weeks ago, and I'm still waiting to hear back from them. And now I'm like, now it's time to find someone new. But that's normal up here. And when I saw the reliability rate, I was like, well, that's smart. I was like, because that guy's 20%, and that sounds like where I live. And I was like, that is 100%. I was like, who are you? So when did you guys decide to put that on? Because I think it's
Yeah.
brilliant that the 20% can still be on there, but simultaneously, like, I have the opportunity to find someone who's actually reliable.
Yeah, it's like, well, so rewinding back 10 years ago when we started GreenPal, I had a landscaping business. So I was kind of coming to the starting block, from a contractor's perspective. I had been in the landscaping business for 15 years, and so everything I knew was from the perspective of being a landscaper. And when
Mhm.
you have that background, you believe that the reason, people make buying decisions is price. You believe that every consumer just wants the cheapest price. And so that's how we built the platform at the outset. We really emphasized the competitive bidding dynamic. We tried to put in all of these product hooks to drive down the cost of lawn mowing. And then so we built that, released that, and then grinded out 100 or 200 people to use it. Like, passed
Mhm.
out door hangers, and sat at Starbucks and begged people to try it out, and whatever we could to get a couple hundred people to use it. And then we would meet with these people, and we would go back to Starbucks and talk to them, or we would meet with them at their kitchen table, and walk through the experience. And and so I was like, "So how much money did you save?" Like, "How much did you save? $5, $10 based on what you—" And they were like, "I don't know. I was just wanting somebody to show up on Thursday when I booked it." And we kept hearing that over and over and over again, that people didn't really care about saving 5 or 10 or 15 bucks on a lawn mowing. They just wanted the guy to show up. And so we quickly learned that, talking to our first couple dozen users, was that actually, no, price matters. It needs to be in like the range, but we were solving the problem of the disappearing lawn guy.
Hmm.
And that actually the big pain point here is just if I hire somebody, will they show up on Thursday to mow it? And then will they show up every Thursday or every other Thursday after that? And the predictability around that. And so we quickly kind of reoriented our efforts. And so the reliability rating was one that was a early product decision. Thank God we met with every person that would use this thing that would meet with us, and they helped us course correct early on.
That's really cool. I love that so much. I kind of wish there were more reliability ratings for other vendors up here
Yeah,
where I
which,
live.
by the way, if you ask lawn care services what they don't like about the platform, they hate that. They hate a
Yeah.
reliability rating. That's probably the number one thing they hate, because this is probably the only thing in existence in their kind of like business tool set that holds them accountable.
Yeah.
But whether they know it or not, it's making them money, because if that number goes up, guess what? Their money earned goes up too, because those two things go hand in hand. And so that's kind of one of the things we've learned over the years building GreenPal, was that we were kind of like a coach in a coach in like their pocket, to help lawn care services be good at business, be good at running a small business, because nobody teaches us how to do that. So it's kind of our platform's job to kind of coach them along as to what it means to be reliable
Mhm.
and to be
Yeah.
proactive and to do a good job for their clients.
That's really cool. I like that. I'm curious as well because as you mentioned, like a lot of your duties are product development, right? So you're focused on what's the next best thing, what's the need. How do you make sure what's the decision framework to make sure that you're not going and putting something in there that sounds exciting but just might not be a fit?
Yeah, man, I mean, the number of heartbreakers I've had in 10, 12 years of building this business, of product ideas that I thought were gonna be a good idea and move the needle on this one kind of piece of the business, that were a dud or actually sent it backwards. You have to realize that you aren't, you're kind of like a gardener in a sense, where you just kind of like you go to one little corner of your yard, you break up the soil, you put some seed in there, and then you let it kind of sit, and then you water it, and then you come back in a month, and then you kind of see what happened.
Hmm.
And that's what building a marketplace is a lot is like. And it's like a never-ending series of experiments. So you have to be willing to take those risks and understand that not everything's going to pan out. Like that's the first thing. But then you don't wanna make dumb decisions and then just build things that aren't gonna move the needle, and, like, you don't wanna spin your wheels, like, trying, throwing spaghetti against the wall. You wanna at least try to, like, make your best bet. And the way I do that, the way I build that kinda intuition as to what people want, what I think will move the needle, is I do still do at least an hour a day, sometimes 2 hours a day of actual one-on-one customer support. So
Hmm.
I'll rotate it. I'll do like live chat one day. I'll do phone another day. We have a Facebook group with like 5,000 landscapers in it that give us feedback all the time. And so I'll alternate those days, and then I'll do 1 hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours of like one-on-one, like literally like customer support. And and that helps me close the gap between what I'm thinking and what our customers are thinking. And
Hmm.
and that helps me develop an intuition for what is it that we need to be focused on? What is it that people want to see? What is it that's pissing people off? And a lot of times we have to make a call. Like we have to, between buyer and seller, we have to we have to draw a line in the sand as to how the platform is going to work. And a lot of that is kind of baked in those conversations with users.
Hey everyone, it's Carly. So, if this conversation is really hitting home and you want to get a real snapshot of what's working and what's not in your business, head on over to my website in the tools and tips section and you can have the business performance health check. In just about 15 minutes, you're going to see where the friction is and where your next growth opportunity lies within your company. Yeah, that's very, very cool. And I'm curious as well. So, as you start to think about like moving forward, what is the next kind of thing you're looking to do with GreenPal? Are you guys going to stick with landscapers? Do you think you're going to expand into other areas? Is there anything new that's coming up?
Yeah, people ask me if I ever want to take this to other verticals, other services, and I think it could work. I think you could have an Uber for home painters, an Uber for HVAC guys or gals, or a Uber for plumbers. But the thing is like every one one of these home service verticals is alike in about like 60 or 70% of of how the business is constructed. But then like the last 20 to 30 to 40% is just so much different that
Mhm.
they're almost different worlds. And even in like even in landscaping maintenance, the commercial side of the business and the residential side of the business are almost completely different worlds in and of themselves. And so these things are like really, really complex to try to get right and to try to deliver that Uber like experience. You have to just be focused on one thing. So we're going to be focused on the ongoing lawn maintenance for probably the foreseeable future and then expand internationally. I think that's our best bet.
Mm.
We like you said at the outset, we have about 300,000 people that use it every week. We could easily serve a million next week.
Mhm.
So growing that number, getting it to a million, and then expanding to Canada, UK, Australia is what we're going to do. Stay in this deep in this vertical, and then go as wide with the footprint as we can.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And I noticed the countries that you mentioned, they're English-based countries, because I imagine that would be difficult to sort of translate all of the app and everything within it to another language.
I think so. Of course, with AI, I think it's probably easier than ever.
Easier.
But from what I've seen, the way others have kind of rolled it out, that's the approach they've taken, and it.
Mhm.
I think culturally, those countries are probably more alike, but who knows, man? There could be like a country out there that just takes to it more than the United States does, and we could replicate, everything that the United States does in Germany or something. And so there could be something culturally that people like about it, and so we want to start experimenting with that.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. I think you guys will do well in Australia. I lived there for a little bit, and there's a lot of great trades individuals in Australia, like
That's
really
awesome.
good.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I would love to have an excuse to go down there too.
Yeah, that would be a great excuse. Basically, wherever you want to go, just
Yeah,
open it
that
up
would be
there.
awesome.
Oh, I love that. And as you started to build this business, right, what would you say is something maybe that you didn't understand about building a tech company versus the blue collar company that really surprised you?
Yeah, it was that nobody tells you this, but when you're building a tech business, you're not building a traditional business in the sense of like you're inventing something brand new from scratch that does not exist. Usually,
Mhm.
when you're building a tech oriented business, you are inventing a brand new way to go about doing things, and that's like an order of magnitude harder than just getting in the trenches and like slugging it out, building a construction company or a landscaping business or a home cleaning business or
Mhm.
something like that. Those businesses are extremely tough. There's no doubt about it. But on top of all that, you got to do everything right like they do. But then you have to figure out, okay, what is it that people want, and
Mhm.
what will people use my new invention, and will people come back to continue to use it? And so it's like you have to be really good at like user psychology, and you have to be really good at discovering what people want, and that's a whole nother level of difficulty. So nobody told me that. And so that's why when we set out to build it, we built the wrong thing. Like we literally were building something to drive down the cost, and what we came to find out through user feedback was that there was like another thing that they wanted. So the ability to like have a vision, but then change course and change strategy and change like your tactics is important when you're building a tech product.
That's cool. And something you mentioned too is like you didn't understand that this was all going to be about user psychology. So what were some of the ways that you dove in to make sure you understood your user psychology, that you still understand it today?
Yeah, it's one of those things that catches you off guard, because you come to the like starting block with your psychology.
Hmm.
And so, my psychology as a contractor was, hey, I'm a hustler. I am going to be everywhere all the time. I'm going to be all over everything. Every customer that comes across my plate, I'm going to get them taken care of, and and I'm going to grow this business, and I'm going to try to make as much money as I can. Like that was my mentality running a landscaping business. Well, not every contractor has that mentality, and
Hmm.
as it turns out, like the case of the disappearing lawn guy, most of these guys just don't feel like working today. God love them,
Yeah.
and just don't feel like. I was like, I know I have 20 customers to do today, but I just don't. I'm just not feeling it, and so they just won't do it. And even though they committed to, even though it's bad for their business, even though all of these things. It is not a foregone conclusion that they want to get out there and hustle and make that money.
Yeah.
And so that was a very surprising thing when I started GreenPal that no, it is not it is not a guaranteed thing
Yeah.
that even though you have somebody that says, "Hey, I will pay you this amount of money to do this job that we agreed on," it is not a guarantee that they will actually come out and do it,
Yeah.
even though they say they will. And so we had to like again reorient everything we were building to fix all of those things and like dig into the user psychology to understand why is it that why isn't that why is it that they don't show up? Why is it that they flaked on this customer and dig into that and diagnose it and prevent it from happening and sideline that person when they do.
That's cool. I'm curious as well, because even that dynamic where you're saying, you were hungry for business, you were hungry for work, and
Yeah.
not everyone is like that. I don't know if this is maybe something that's just what I got used to in LA and if it's relevant in like bigger cities. But I just did notice in bigger cities when it came to any type of employee, any type of contractor, I had far more reliability than in the smaller town that I live in now, like far more. And
Yeah.
people just seem like hungry for work. And if they didn't show up, I just had someone else like as backup that I was like, great, like this person will do it. Do you find that that's something with the psychology of individuals, like when you're looking at reliability, that it's more reliable in big cities, or was just LA kind of a gold mine for me potentially?
It's a
Yeah.
really, really good question. I think there's like an evolutionary pressure that occurs in a bigger metropolitan area
Hmm.
than in a small town, meaning like you really your back's against the wall, particularly if you're a blue collar like home services provider, it's expensive to exist in those places. And
It
so
is.
they're hustling to just to get to the next week and try to get to the next level in life and so there could be some of that. We've noticed that, and then in like in your smaller towns, there's more like a laid back kind of I'll get to it when I get to it kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
but it's our platform's job to be agnostic as to what like be like McDonald's of lawn mowing, and it doesn't matter if you're in Huntsville, Alabama, or in Hollywood, you're gonna get the same crappy burger, but it's gonna be the same burger. It's our platform's job to enforce a consistency in every small city, every big city across the whole
Mhm.
United States that is in an acceptable range where you hire somebody to mow your yard, they show up that same day or the next day, and they get it taken care of, and that's easier in some places and more difficult in others.
Yeah, no, that's very, very cool. I do agree with that. The competition is definitely different. I like it though. I think it's healthy competition.
Yeah.
And yeah, I joke with my husband. I was like, I don't want to raise my kids here. I was like, there's not enough competition. Like, I just want them to like push
Yeah,
and just,
yeah,
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 yeah.
you need some of that. I know I do. And it's a lot of times you have to self-impose it too when you're building your
Yes.
business. You have to create those goals. If you don't have a goal, then you don't really have, something that you're driving towards. And it's easy, just like I was kind of ragging on the lawn guy that didn't want to go mow his 20 yards. It's easy to fall into that mentality of just kind of coasting. So yeah, I struggle with that as well.
Yeah, I like it's a self competition too. And I'll go and I'll look at what other people are doing in other places, bigger companies that, huge companies I'll look at and I'll be like, oh, they're
Yeah.
doing this and that, just to keep the competition up because I'm the only business coach in the neighborhood, like
Oh,
period.
nice.
Yeah,
That's
that's
great.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
it is great, but like if I'm the best here, I'm still not doing that well. And I'm like, okay, like where can I do? Where is my competition? Where can I
The
do better?
classic, yeah, big fish in
Yeah.
a small pond or vice versa. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
conundrum.
Yeah, and so if I keep surrounding myself with other big fish and friends and colleagues and even clients and stuff, it really helps to remind me that I'm just a fish. I'm not a
That's what
big
they
fish or a
say.
small
That's
fish.
what they
I'm just
say
a
to
fish.
do.
Yeah. I love that. And I'm curious too, like even that dynamic of the blue collar skills, right? So you had a lot of blue collar skills from your initial company. What are some of the blue collar skills that did translate into
Oh,
building the tech company?
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot didn't, but
Yeah.
a lot did. A lot did. And so a lot of it is about personal mindset. That these two things were exactly the same. In building my landscaping business and building GreenPal was that you have to be all over everything all the time. You have to it doesn't matter. You might think you have this title or you are over these three things, but it does not matter what it is. As the founder, as the owner, as the CEO, you are all over everything all the time. And like Elon Musk, he got this portfolio of monstrous companies. He's always like zooming into one and going to another one and like sleeping on the shop floor and like digging into the weeds on what's
Mhm.
like the biggest problem that any of these empires has. And so as a business owner, you have to have the same mentality. You are always kind of zooming in and zooming out. And that was the same with my blue collar business and my tech business. There's a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Wilkins. Maybe that's his last name. I might have screwed that up.
It's a
And
good
he
book.
Yeah, great book.
Yeah.
What he talks about in that book as a Navy SEAL is like extreme ownership. It basically means that like everything is your fault all the time
Yeah.
and you have to just embrace that. Once you embrace that, it can make your life a lot easier in a sense because every problem that comes to you, you take personal accountability for. And that was the same building my first business and building my second business.
Mhm.
So a lot of that personal psychology maps to almost anything that you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think it's incredibly helpful. It's a question I ask myself a lot. What can I 100% control, make changes in this situation? Where do I not have control? And even if I don't have control, do I have influence? Right.
Yeah,
And if I have influence, it's like what changes within myself, within the company to shift that influence, which it's fascinating because you can do a lot more than you think when you ask a different question.
totally.
Yeah. So it's
I
very
like
cool.
that.
Yeah, just asking different questions. I really appreciate you coming on today. This was great. This was really cool, fascinating. I love what you're up to with the company, what you've created, and I'm excited to see where you guys go next. If people want to find out more information, where do they go to find you?
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Carly. I enjoyed our conversation too. Yeah, people can find me. You can just Google my name, Bryan Clayton, and maybe throw GreenPal on the end, and it'll pop up on my socials. And you can hit me up on any of those. And then if you want to try out GreenPal, you just go to greenpal.com.
Awesome. I'll put the links in the show notes too. And if you guys like this, if you enjoyed it, found it inspiring, definitely share it with someone else who you think would benefit from it as well. And thank you again for coming, Brian. This was awesome.
Thank you for having me on.